Does anyone know what they're actually doing? The answer is probably not. Hi, I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. And today we're going to talk about the fact that nobody actually knows what the hell they're doing and how that's a good thing. A little background about this. I've done many, many things in my life. I've had many jobs. And I didn't know what I was doing at a single one of them. Does that mean I did the jobs poorly? No, of course not, because I figured it out. And there's a certain value in figuring things out. And there's a certain wisdom in knowing that you have to figure something out. What do I mean by that? Well, let's put it this way. A bad attorney knows exactly what they're doing. Why? Let me explain. So a bad attorney, when you explain your problem to them, sits down and goes, yes, I know exactly how to solve this problem. I'll have it done in a day or so. At the end of that day, invariably, the problem is not solved. Why is the problem not solved? I'm doing Socratic method with myself, if you haven't noticed. I'm asking myself questions, answering them on your behalf. So you're welcome. But why is the problem not solved? Because invariably, the bad attorney has overlooked something. Nothing has as simple a solution as you might think. Now, some solutions are less complicated than others, but that's just it. The solution is less complicated than others. It is not simple. So a bad attorney says, I can solve this problem in one day, no problem. He's set expectations, he or she or they, them, whatever, has set expectations that he cannot, I'm going to continue to say he because I'm only saying one pronoun, that he cannot meet. A good attorney says, let me look into it probably 2 days. By the end of the 2 days, invariably, he has a partial solution, but needs more time to really refine it and make it as it should be. A great attorney says, I've seen problems like this before. Let me look into your particular situation, and I'll get back to you with what we can potentially do about it and how long it's going to take. That attorney has set the stage for the problem requires more research, and I don't know how long it's going to take yet. Doesn't mean it's going to take long. It just means I don't know yet because I have to look into the particulars of your particular problem. Why am I using the example of an attorney? Well, because you would think with all the education that attorneys get, they'd be able to solve problems like that. You'd think they'd walk into the room and go, I know exactly what your problem is. We take 6 months on contract law. You would think we know everything there is to know about contracts. The answer is we don't know crap. Why do we not know crap? Well, because every single contract is written slightly differently. And depending on what state it's in, and I don't mean like, half written or fully written. I mean literally what state of the United States it's in, it will have different rules governing that contract. So we have to look into those rules. We have to make sure we're straight on those rules before we look into the actual terms of the contract. And then something might come up where we say, this seems to be impinging not just on the state's rules of contract, but also on, let's say, the state's UCC rules, if it's the movement of goods. And if we get into that, well then, okay, that triggers a whole other set of principles that we have to be aware of. And if we have to be aware of those principles as we go through it, then we have to look at this, then we have to, you see what I'm getting at. The bad attorney has not prepared the client for any of those items. The good attorney has hinted at them, but has not said them straight out to the client. And the great attorney has said to the client, let me look into it. I'll review the problem and I'll get back to you on how long it's going to take. Reasonably set the expectations. Now, why is that a good thing? Well, because the beginnings of wisdom are knowing what you don't know. The beginnings of wisdom are not the amount of crap you know. The beginnings of wisdom are knowing the questions to ask to find the answers you're looking for. And I know with my backwards hat and my thick-rimmed glasses and my lack of beard, I look exactly like the type of guy who should be teaching you about this stuff. And you're right. Thank you. You and I both agree on that. But to my 20 subscribers, who I haven't thanked yet this podcast, and so I'd like to say thank you to them. If you like what I'm saying, like and subscribe, or don't. It's It's up to you. People who are really good at their jobs don't actually know what they're doing at their jobs because they know less what to do and more what the questions are to ask to accomplish that job. And this goes from craftsman all the way through to the highest level of white collar. Because if you go, and I say highest level of white collar, it's not really levels, it's more of a flat plane, but you get what I'm saying. A really good welder, for example, doesn't look at a problem and say to himself, okay, this is exactly the same as everything I've seen before. Now, if you're working on an assembly line, don't get me wrong. On an assembly line, you should be able to ask these questions fairly quickly and assess the problem really quickly. All you're looking for on an assembly line is to make sure there aren't any surprises. So long as there are no surprises, you've answered the questions you need to answer. But then there are other welders who are dealing with non-assembly line problems that crop up in the field, like if somebody were to, say, shear the arm off of an excavator. I've seen that happen before, and solving that problem's a pain in the butt because you have to put it back together in such a way that it's not going to shear off again, and you're also not creating a weakness in the arm because you could very easily, when you put those 2 points together, because that's a new part, you could be creating a brand new weakness in the arm. So you have to be careful not to do that. But that's a series of questions you have to ask yourself. How did this shear off? How do I put this back together? Once I've got it lined up, how do I tack it into place so that I can properly put it back together? It's a series of questions, and you answer the questions and you solve them as you go. You can look at it and say, okay, I know where to get started, but you're never going to know where to finish. That's only answered as you go through the process. But that's what separates people who are good at stuff, people who are great at stuff. Now, I talked about sports and the being great at something requiring the 1,000th rep in an earlier podcast. That's the same thing. That is the same thing, even though it's implemented in a different fashion, right? Like you can't ask a bunch of questions and take your time with the answer on a basketball court. But when you get the ball in your hands and you're Michael Jordan and you're walking up the court with the ball, you are asking that question. You're saying, okay, the defense was in a 2-3 before. What are they in now? Are they in a 1-3-1? Are they in a box and one? What are we looking at? How are they responding to different things we've tried? You're answering these questions very quickly, like, within split seconds, obviously, but you're asking and answering these questions, and you know what questions you need to ask. You're not necessarily asking, okay, is that a box and one? Inquiry over. And the questions are outward facing, not inward facing. The question in your head isn't, should I take a 3-pointer here? It's, are they in a 2-3, a box and one, whatever? Because that gives you the answer you're looking for. Again, wisdom is knowing the questions to ask and asking them quickly. Asking them and answering them quickly. So always be on the lookout for people who have all the answers. Because if they have all the answers really, really fast, it's a safe bet that they haven't spent the time to actually ask the question. And the truth is, they may have the answer simply because they don't know enough what questions they're supposed to be asking, and they're masking it by simply having an answer ready for you. I don't know. I would consider it when you go up to somebody and you get just blown away and wowed by how smart they are. It may in fact be that they're just covering up the fact that they really don't know what they're talking about, because a truly wise person knows what they don't know. And usually what you don't know is a lot. What you don't know is always going to be more than what you know. So if you walk up to somebody and you're talking about politics and they're like, oh, we solved this problem like this, I wouldn't trust that person. But if you walk up to someone and you're talking about politics and they say, we're in a really confusing situation because we have these problems that we have to solve, and we just can't get there. Why? Well, one potential answer is because of it. You go on and on and on. Wise people are the ones who are asking the questions. Smart people are the ones who have a quick answer. People who are both wise and smart, well, they're just annoying. That's my opinion. Ask questions. Don't have answers. Maybe a guy who has a 10-minute long answer on a podcast is not the guy you want to go to for advice. But if you've come to me for advice, I appreciate you. 20 people have come to me for advice so far. They seem to stick around. They haven't kicked me out of their lives yet. I appreciate that. If you want to be one of 20 and actually make it more than 20, like and subscribe. I'm here. If you don't, leave a comment. Tell me I'm a dummy. I take it personally. I'll cry, but, at least I know that. I'm Nick. This is 10 Minutes with Nick. Have a great day.